Hey, welcome to Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer. And this is a show where I interview the movers and shakers in the world of property development and real estate. This show is sponsored by PropTech Metaverse Solutions. It's a new way that is changing how developments are visualized, marketed, and sold, and it removes the need for outdated 3D models. We use this tech to save on property developers up to 11% on construction costs, increase off sales plans, and save between 8 and 12 weeks of concept timelines. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn at Glen Palmer Secure or look in the show notes below. So today's guest we have Yatish. He is a leading executive at HTL Hospitality Advisors and Hotel Brokers. He specializes in hotel and resorts brokerage, financing, and property management all across the US hotel market. Yatish, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome, and let's dive in, shall we? Firstly, am I saying your name right? Is it Yatish? How do you say it?
Yes, Glenn, thank you for having me on the show. I really enjoy you reaching out to me and getting me on here today. Yes, my name's Yatish. It's pronounced just like how you see it on paper, no
Yeah,
different.
excellent, excellent. So, right, let's kick off then. So good old question. It's a good old faithful of mine. I always open it up, and it is if time travel became a reality, and you had a chance to go back in time to when you first started your career, what advice would the person you are now tell your younger self?
It's the old saying in real estate is diversify.
Yeah.
Um, if you see in real estate many times during a market crisis, most of the problems happen when there's a concentration in a single asset.
Hmm.
And when I was growing up, my friends, family, investors, we were gung ho on hotel only investments and developments. We built Holiday Inns, Best Westerns, Marriott's, Hilton's, you name it, even Hyatt's as well too.
Yeah.
But after a while, you realized, culturally and in real estate, diversification is the best way to, in hindsight, to help your future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. One of the things in with it becomes any whether it's property, whether it's crypto, whether it's a whole bunch of other assets, structured notes. I've always been told always diversify against currencies, countries, different various assets. So yeah, totally get where you're coming from. So, in your role at HTL, what is the hardest part of deal making in the hotel and resort industry that still surprises people outside the industry?
Well, the biggest thing is managing expectations.
Yeah.
Most people want to look at a number on the paper, LTV, DCR, debt yield. All of those are processes, and sometimes people skip steps, and that can cost them in the market millions or billions of dollars. And we've seen that recently, where people have to take haircuts in the office space, right? And
Mm.
sometimes people use their passion and emotions too much, investors, lenders, and third party. And the biggest surprise people um, would lead you to believe that deal making is easy in the um, real estate industry because you see so many deals closed on the internet
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody's cheering about it. But what they don't see is how many deals fall apart because the little processes that were skipped or overlooked, and you go into escrow, and then the lender will not lend on that asset because maybe property taxes weren't paid on time a year ago.
Hmm.
or because of COVID, right? And
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
had
yeah.
those issues, those crises recently that have affected the transactional aspect of a lot of these assets, where a lender will say, okay, this was too greatly affected by this financial crisis recently, and we have no good outlook for that aspect in the future. And that's where, there are advisors, for specialists for these scenarios. And
Mm,
too often these days, you see people skipping those steps and processes, because they either don't know who to look for, or they don't want to spend the smaller amount. Unfortunately, the feasibility study, or maybe a broker's opinion of value, because they don't want that opinion. They believe their
yeah,
opinion or their emotion is logical. And sometimes you have to have a third party look at the scenario and give you a perspective. And that's where I think HTL helps in these kind of scenarios, um,
hmm,
in downturns, especially in upturns, because a lot of people think in when the market is doing great, oh, we're the best. But that's when you can actually trim where others think it's okay to spend. Um, when you can lean your operations, and usually in the hotel space, in the hospitality space, you can't lean on people, but you can convert some of your um, unuseful processes to computerized processes. Like if someone is one of your uh, guest hosts are on constantly handling the phone, and they're actually supposed to be in front of a guest, you
hmm,
can automate the guest answering phone process. And that would help them out, because then they can utilize their time better for the guest, for the consumer. And
yeah,
that's what the consumers are looking for these days. Someone that'll give them the service for their dollar, or their
yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because at the end of the day, when logic comes into it, we're not, we like to think we're logical creatures, but we go on emotion, don't we? We go on, especially when we're looking at things, how we interact with each other and stuff like that. We want that have to have that human interaction all the time. We want that, and we also want to get pleased. We want to have that sort of connection where we're the most important things on the planet. So especially when it comes to hospitality and hotels, I've gone into a couple of hotels, and I've had really bad experiences where they're chatting to one another, and they can see me at the front and center wanting to book in or whatever that may be. Maybe I might be asking a question about when the restaurant opens or whatever it may be, and they're there and they're just chatting to one another and they're not chatting to me, and that really gets my back up. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And talking about the pandemic, right? So in the hospitality, travel, and the leisure investment space, that's faced huge disruption. So you've had the pandemic, then you've got all the tech that is coming on and rapidly growing, and then you've got guest expectations. So where do you see the next big shift in the hotel and resorts asset?
The hospitality, tourism, and leisure industry is always evolving with
Yeah.
the market and consumer expectations. The industry is very resilient and has leaders in all corners of the world shaping the evolution of what's the next shift in hospitality will be. And when it comes to what we uh, vision and future aspect of hospitality development at HTL, we've taken on an encompassing evolution of multi development, where complex development is happening on a rapid level. Consumers look at Las Vegas
Hmm.
as aspect of what hospitality will look like in a mini version. So not as big as a mega resort, but you know, and this goes to some of the other things we may cover is the regulatory aspect.
Mm.
The way hospitality has to evolve right now, there's too much red tape, and sometimes the government and the communities are hamstringing the future evolution that entrepreneurs see as a consumer demand, and they're not able to actually put it out there. And that's why it's taking 4 to 5 years for that development to happen, because they have to go out and teach or plant a seed in communities and say, hey, this is the future of hospitality. And that's why we have a lag of development when it comes to consumer demand and expectations and what is actually out in the marketplace for a product and
Yeah.
development.
Yeah. So following on from that, in the US and the local market challenges in your markets, what regulatory, financing, or operational constraints make hotel acquisitions or dispositions trickier than they look on paper? So what's your take on that?
Well, recently there's been a new unrealistic expectation that regulators, financiers, and others have had about real estate.
Hmm.
There is a cap to the cost of goods through consumer expectations. And unfortunately, in the past 10 years, cheap money and unregulated government spending has dropped the guard and made the greed index go up, which have driven the cost of everything else. And that's why we are having inflation at a, most people are saying 24% in the last 5 years in the United States alone. I'm pretty sure the world is seeing a larger index, but real estate is when you compare a 1970s building to a 2025 building in an appraisal, and then you expect to get the same cost for that when you sell it to someone, and then their new business is based on passing that on to the consumer as a price index. It does not make financial sense for the consumer now because they did not receive that in income increase.
Yeah.
So the now you have the cost basis of all this development, and it's understandable, but to buy a building from 1970s and compare it and then expect the consumer to pay for that, well, this is why we have a disparity in the market, unfortunately,
Mm.
when it comes to
Yeah.
consumer expectations and then cost, what the new business cost is.
Yeah. So how would you tackle that then in this day and age? How would you what changes would you make for that?
Well, look, there's this is why we have free markets in the Western world. In some other markets, there are other ways to constrain greed index, but really it's being a smart consumer in the real estate industry. It's
Hmm.
using professionals like the people at HTL and some of the other companies that provide specialized services to protect your assets, protect your future investments. I've helped plenty of people invest in triple net, um, um, A plus graded investments from hospitality, where they're getting coupon clippers instead of having to run a motel 24 hours a day. Um, there's aspects of real estate that we overlook,
Hmm.
and when we look at a concentration, we go back to the diversification. If you're able to diversify from your um, lower class assets, your C and B class assets, into A class assets outside of the hospitality industry and their like kind, at the same net income and the same asset price, you should go towards that, because what people are doing is they're going towards the asset that they know the best, and people are overcharging them.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to have an advisor that can compare apples to pears and see if you're getting the same price. And that's where that's where a lot of people don't have the knowledge. They need to hire a specialist.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then so moving on from that, so when pitching a hotel property, especially ones that are under development or perhaps need refurbishment, how valuable do you think have you found immersive visuals like the 3D models or virtual walkthroughs in helping buyers actually see the potential before either a brick has been laid or if it needs renovating and it needs sprucing up to show the art of the possible? How valuable is that?
This is a great opportunity for real estate and the hospitality industry. I've actually seen this used in Dubai and Los Angeles,
Uh,
showcasing conceptual investments and walkthroughs for existing properties.
yeah,
Um, th- this, unfortunately, technology has been slow to catch up to the marketing aspect of real estate, and I think there's a great aspect to this, especially with drones and everything that's happening. And I hope that that arena actually explodes, because I know with the auctions that happen online for hotels and real estate, that would help consumers be more knowledgeable about their purchases.
yeah, yeah. And then, given how sort of complex hotels and resorts assets are, you've got your rooms, your amenities, all the different operations. Do you think that there's a place for narrative-driven visualization tools that combine hard data with emotional storytelling to help close deals faster?
Yes, if you look at how Steve Wynn and Kirk Kerkorian started their businesses, and what some of the Las Vegas moguls used to do back in the days, they used to have symposiums with their families and friends and guests, talk about their opportunities in Vegas, with beautiful narratives of the
Yeah.
strip. They didn't have the technology we had, so the immersion that we have, the technology immersion, can really help. Some of the investors' emotional aspect and reach their expectations before even some of these concepts are built.
Hmm. Yeah. And then I suppose one of the best things and one of the really good advantages is that it can be anywhere in the world, can it? You can get someone from Dubai checking out a property in Las Vegas, not having to get in a plane and fly over to check out the property. He can do it there and then, sort of in front of his computer screen, which opens a whole world of opportunity now, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it for the show. Huge thank you for joining me, Yatish. Here's an opportunity to tell the listeners what HTL does. So I'll hand it over to you. You can plug away. If you've got any links or anything like that that you want them to have a look at, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Glenn. HTL is a hotel and resort real estate firm. We specialize in syndicating deals for our investors and our financiers. We help investors throughout the world invest in the United States, especially in the hospitality driven industry. You can contact us at www.htlha.com. Thank you, Glenn, and I appreciate
Excellent.
your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yatish. Really good to have you on the show. And as a reminder, the show is sponsored by PropTech Metaverse Solutions. new way that is challenging how developments are visualized, marketed, and sold, and that removes the need for those outdated 3D models. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, or you'll find the link in the show notes below. That's it. Thanks for tuning in to Blueprints to Buildings. I'm your host, Glen Palmer. That was Yatish, and we'll see you on the next episode.